Hi, my name is MachineRite, and this is Understanding Fortnite. As long as you have mats or heals, you should never be dying in a fight. And the way that you do this is very simple, and it's just reboxing. There's a reason why I put so many of these reboxing drills in my creative practice videos, and that's because it's super important for defensive play. Ideally, your defensive skills should be priority number one, because like I said before, as long as you have mats or heals, no one should be able to kill you. Now, there's a specific way that you want to rebox, and I'm going to go over that. But first I want to go over something that's even more important than building the actual boxes themselves, and that's your reaction time to being chunked or your reaction time to losing a wall. So if you're trading with someone and they land a big shotgun shot, what they're going to do is they're instantly going to try and push you, because they know that most players are going to try and run away and heal. So what needs to happen is your reaction time for being chunked needs to be faster than their reaction time to push. And that's difficult because really good players are going to be already mentally prepared to push you even before they take the shot. So as soon as the shot lands, they're already pushing. So when that happens, you need to be able to get in that defensive mode super quick. And that's another reason why those creative drills are good, because you can make all of your reboxing skills totally subconscious and total implicit memory. So that's already like 80% of the skill gone. Then the 20% is just practicing it in fights and practicing that reaction time to start getting defensive and start reboxing. So one thing that you're going to want to do when you're going into your defensive mode is you're going to want to switch to hard mats. And there's a few advantages to this. The more time you delay, the more health these hard mats have time to build up, which if you're reboxing properly and building in a way to reuse old boxes, which I'm going to show in a second, this becomes super useful because all of your hard mats are going to have super high health. And if you didn't know, brick walls take 3 hits to break if they're hitting weak points. If they're not hitting weak points, then it's 4 hits. Metal walls take 4 hits to break even if you are hitting weak points. And the next advantage to hard mats is that they're much more difficult to see through. Brick, you can kind of see through the walls, but you cannot really see through a brick cone, and you especially cannot see through a brick cone and floor. And this is important to know because if your opponent is pushing from above, which most of them are, then building from brick can pretty much fully conceal you from the top. Metal is even better, but it takes longer to build, so metal is super useful for if your opponent snipes you or lands a big AR tag on you. And if you're going to have a lot more time before they actually make it to you and push up to you, then metal is a really good choice. Wood is not really that great at all because it only takes 2 hits to break from a pickaxe, which can be difficult to react to. You're not really going to be able to get any heals off if you just have a wood defense. 2 pickaxe swings is not enough time to get a mini off. One habit that you can get into that if you only have wood, and this can apply to pretty much all of the things I mentioned, and I call this the double layer habit. You always want to double layer, and what you can do is you can either get on a ramp or a cone and just edit your cone like this. If you actually have no time at all, building a ramp is better because whenever you edit something, the health is pretty much cut down to minimum unless it's had time to build. And yeah, you always want to be sitting on something like this. The cone is useful because it covers 2 walls rather than just one. And basically this little defense here can give you that extra little time to get like a big pot off or like an extra mini off. The reason I'm talking about all these hard mats and stuff and build time is because the faster you react to being chunked, the more time all of these hard mats are going to have to build. And also the more time you're going to have to get more boxes out and things like that. Now I want to talk about box formations. And what I mean by this is just like the direction that you build your boxes in. A common thing I've seen recommended is to always build away from your opponent. But I'm going to show you why that might not be the best thing to do. Okay, so let's say your opponent's chunked you and you've built out like this. So the advantage to building out like this is that you've put the most distance possible in between you and your opponent. He has to walk the most distance to get to your wall. The downside to this is he can drop right here and then take this wall. And once he has this wall, you're isolated again to one box. You cannot go safely into this box anymore because he has that wall and can edit on you. And you cannot use this box anymore. So basically what you've done is you've invested your mats poorly because you cannot reuse any of your mats unless you build all the way around and connect back to this, because he's taken this one box and by doing that he's cut off another box for you. Another strategy I often see talked about is this L-shaped box. This can be good, but again it's got that exact same issue of somebody dropping right here and they take this wall. And what they've done is, again, the exact same thing, is they've cut you off into a single box. You cannot move back to this box safely without building around. And basically, it's another poor investment of mats. And I thought I'd just mention it, but another common thing is this double box thing. And again, this has the same issue of someone just taking your one box and isolating you to another single box. And it also doesn't put that much distance in between you and your opponent. So if you got chunked and you only built this, it's very easy for them to just drop down here right away and start attacking your main wall and basically deny your heal. And what can happen is if you only build these 2 boxes and they're already on your wall before you can even get one heal off, they're going to start this cycle that basically never ends of them getting to your one wall, taking it, and canceling your heal, you have to rebox again, and by the time you create your new box and start your next heal, they're already on your wall again. What you really need to do is you really just need to create a huge amount of space right away as soon as possible, or else you're just going to get caught in this cycle, and basically what's going to happen is you're either eventually just going to run out of mats, or they're just eventually going to catch you with piece control or something. So what I would actually recommend doing is building 4 boxes right away. Like I said before, if they're above, they can't see through these cone floors once they're like halfway built. They can see through the single walls, but they can't see through 2 walls once they're like about halfway built. So that's another advantage. And the next advantage is, let's say they just go to your most recent box. So let's say they take this box. After they take that box, what happens is you still have a full L and full 3 boxes that you can reuse. And the best part about that is if you go and edit all the way back into your first box, by the time they've done all of this, your first box is now fully built. So that gives you even more time to possibly get a heal off. And what you can also do if the person is like extra aggressive and they've taken that box over there and you know that they're coming quickly, is you can just go and build something like this. And basically you can just add 2 more boxes on. And what this gives you is it gives you 2 new boxes to use, but you can also go and edit all the way back into these other boxes that are fully built. And like I said, these full hard map builds are very difficult to see through. The only thing they can do is guess or just like go based off of sound. And if you're standing still doing nothing and using a heal, they're not going to be able to hear that at all. And basically every time they get to you, what you can do is just build 2 more boxes and just keep delaying them more and more. And what you can keep doing is just going back and back into old boxes that are fully built. And often what people do when they see this happening is they get very impatient. And that's understandable because there's the possibility of third parties showing up, which actually works in your favor if you're on the defensive, because the person on the offensive is always going to be on the outside and they're always going to be the one targeted first by the third party. That's good for you because you don't have to finish the fight. You can just let them get in the fight and you can just leave. You can either just leave or wait to put yourself in a better position or do anything like that. So let me quickly just summarize everything I just said about box formations. First of all, you want to build out a hard mats because it's harder to see through. 2 boxes are not generally good enough because they can get on your wall right away and they can start a cycle of canceling your heal over and over again, and basically you just get nowhere. Don't just build 3 boxes straight out because they can just take the middle box wall and they can just cut off access to your previous box, and again you're left with 1 box. The L box is slightly better, but again they can just take 1 wall and cut off your access to another box. And then like I just said, the 2x2 is generally the best to just crank out right away. Using that hybrid boxing technique, it's super fast. You don't have to edit and reset and weaken any of your builds. Everything gets fully built as soon as possible. And then basically every time they take 1 wall of your box, you can just expand and build 2 more boxes. And that's really the habit you want to get into. When you're trying to get a heal off and someone gets to your wall, don't just build 1 box out and try again. Build 2 boxes out and then try and go back to one of your original boxes. Or they can just function as decoys for the time being. Okay, so the next thing you can apply to make this strategy even more annoying is, first of all, ideally you don't want to be on the ground layer when you're doing this as like your backup layer. Because what can happen is you can just get fully piece controlled like this. Basically you have nowhere to go if they have this box and you have to drop down. So saving that ground layer for when you actually are completely trapped is pretty useful. And what can also happen is if someone's really good is someone can actually full box you while you're building out and get your cone floor. And the cone floor is always the easiest thing to get, so that's why I recommend building your cone floors first when you're reboxing out and not your walls. And getting piece controlled is another big reason why your reboxing has to be super fast and efficient. If your boxes are too slow, it's a much higher chance of them getting the builds before you do. Another thing is when you open up your edit, that instantly gives away what your intentions are. So if they know that you're trying to rebox, they're going to go and place a cone floor there. So when you're practicing, you got to make sure that you're optimizing the sequence of placing all of your builds as soon as you get this edit open, just so that you're not giving yourself away to your opponent. And now another thing I want to talk about is your counter plays and your counter peeks. Obviously your main goal should just be to get your heals off, but if you notice that they're being super aggressive and reckless and they start getting impatient, and let's say they drop into all your structures, then that's a really good opportunity for you to start making counter plays. Obviously just making safe peeks. If they're trying to spray in through a wall, you could do like a spray punish type thing or like a pre-fire strat. All those defensive and opportunistic plays like that. The only time you don't want to do any sort of spray punish where they're spraying through it is if your health is less than 1 AR shot or 1 SMG shot. Because what's going to happen is as soon as that shot sneaks through, that shot is always going to be faster than human reaction time, because it's already firing out of the weapon as soon as the wall breaks. So yeah, make sure if you're literally like lower than 30 health or lower than 20 health, that you're actually really trying to go for the heal first, or get like a 1 mini off at least before you start making counter plays. But yeah, that's pretty much it for this video. Thanks guys.